We got what, week 8 coming up, huh? Hey, it's 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. We're live at 5. ResV Systems, the first live broadcast of ResV. I have Coach Lind with me, as well as the living legend himself, Jack Pincince. And we're going to talk some volleyball. We're going to talk about the Rhode Island Interscholastic League volleyball playoffs that are coming on. But as you guys jumped on, we were talking week 8. We have a couple more matches to talk about, and then we're going to be in the playoffs. Certainly feel free to get on the chat and ask us any questions you might have. But yeah, this is our first one, so there's going to be sort of a bumpy ride as we figure out how it all works. As Coach Lind will tell me and tell almost anybody, I try everything on him first. So, but he's very knowledgeable, certainly as a coach at the club level, and he is an official as well in the league. So he's seen a lot of teams and knows a lot about what's going on. So welcome, Ben. And then also we got Big Jack Pincince, the living legend. The dude is a high-level pin. He played for me for a little bit, and then went on to be a professional volleyball player at Boston Bounce for a couple of years. And then now he's back at playing for the University of Rhode Island. Had a big year this past season. And if there's one thing the man knows how to do, is he knows how to hit a volleyball, and he can help with that information and his expertise as well. His younger brother plays for Cranston, so he's seen a lot of teams go through. So he's got some great ideas on everything as well. So welcome, Jack. Welcome, Ben, to the first ResV Live at 5.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Happy to help.
So, man, let's start with Division 3. I think that's where we really need to kick off. Ben, I know you've conversed with me a couple times about how excited you are about Division 3 and how wild that map seems to be. How about you lay the land out for us?
So at the moment, I've got the standings up right now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams who have already punched their ticket, with 3 more knocking on the door. They need 1 more win each, and 3 teams that are out of it. So we're looking at the possibility of an 11-team playoff to decide the champion for Division 3.
11 teams? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, there were a lot of teams in Division 3 this year. 4 of those teams were brand new. At least one of the brand new teams is actually in second place right now. That's Juanita Sanchez.
Right.
And it's looking really dangerous. Looking like you're gonna have to play a lot if you want to actually have a chance down there. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited to watch and see how it plays out.
So how will they make that work? Like, are they going to have like a bunch of play-in games, and then you get into your 1v8, 2v7, 3v6, 4v5?
So I'm not sure with how they would do it with that many teams. Now, I mean, if 2 of those teams that are knocking on the door don't happen to make it, we'll have the 8 and 9 seed team do a play-in game, and then it'll be 1-8, 2-7, yada yada yada. If 3 teams make it, we're in a situation where it becomes, all right, who gets the play-in matches? I think my best guess there would be 1 plays the winner of a play-in, 2 plays the winner of a play-in, 3 plays the winner of a play-in, and then everyone else figures themselves out. So I think that would put 4 versus 8, 5 versus 7, something like that. It's in there somewhere. The math's hard.
When you have 11 people qualifying, the math is very, very hard. Which I find interesting, mainly because, in the old days, it would just be top 8, and then there's sort of the rule about, what was it, 30% or 40% to wins to get on the board, and
30% in Division 1, 40% in Division 2 and Division 3.
Yeah. So it's definitely a weird environment for them. And then right now, Johnston, the Panthers are the top seed. They haven't lost. They've only lost 1 set the entire match. They have a couple of middles, Jack, that hit the ball a ton, and really no one seems to have an answer for them. How do you deal with some weapons like that when you don't have the ability to counterattack?
I guess the good thing with tough middles is that you can always just serve the other team out of system. If you take them out of system, then you've taken away the option to set the middle quick, and then the other team has to rely on other guys to do some work.
Yeah. The serving is very interesting. Now, Ben, you've seen D3 a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of tape. The serving seems to be a little bit more brisk than I remember in years past, which is great. So, if you're able to serve tougher, Big Jack said, you can get them out of system, and then they can't really utilize their middles. Though at the same time, that Panther team, they're going to set the high ball in the middle. Even they really will run their middles no matter what. They have a couple of they have two guys. Gonzalez is one of them. I just want to double check on that because it's been hard to find his name. Let's see here. Yeah, Christian Gonzalez. He's the guy who's just been the monster for them, a lefty middle out of Puerto Rico who, whenever they're in trouble, they just launch a high ball in the middle and he terminates.
You figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you do it, man. And he does a nice job. So, I mean, it's hard to stop. The other thing too, is you're going to have to send 3 blocks. Like, the triple block is going to have to become part of your defense against what's happening. I know a lot of Division III teams don't utilize that skill, but they should, because that's going to be the best way to slow down and maybe get something.
I mean, for better or for worse, sometimes in Division III, triple blocks in the middle will happen just by happenstance. Some kids will attempt to support block or think that 2 is better than 1, but because it's in the middle, both whoever's on the right and the left will come in, and all of a sudden there's triple up block at Division III. Now, I don't know how good these middles are. I haven't had the chance to see them yet this season, but I imagine that even if it happens every now and then, they're not getting stopped a whole lot, considering they've dropped 1 set in a 12-game season so far.
I don't think anybody's been tripling them, though. Like, I really don't
not
think
on purpose.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a strategy, but I think it may have to be.
Yeah.
If you got 2 guys that are outclassing you in the middle, I mean, you got to throw the kitchen sink at them, don't you, Jack?
Yeah, you do. Honestly, I wish the whole triple blocking thing would happen more. Not just in D3, but like the whole state. I feel like the blocking is pretty poor, but
agreed.
Yeah, well, I mean, blocking is the hardest skill to teach, and certainly the hardest skill to get results on. And a lot of times people get frustrated with the block because you don't get instant results. Just because you don't get a touch or you don't get a block for point doesn't mean you didn't set a good block. And we found that out. I've found that out a lot in the statistical realm whereas I get a lot of people saying, all right, bounced off my hands, it's a block. Well, no, that's not exactly a block. It's a slowdown or a touch. But if we can get a dig after that and get a counter, then that's what we're looking for. But yeah, the blocking is hard, and certainly the triple block at the men's level, at the college level, that's what you're going to be doing. So if you're playing at the top level, whether it be Division III, Division II, Division I, or NAIA, that triple block is going to be part of the show no matter what. So not a bad idea to have it going early on here in Rhode Island volleyball at the high school level.
I think the one team that might actually triple block a team like Johnston on purpose would be Tolman Shea.
Yep.
I think they have a lot of pieces to do. I think the coach is really good. The only thing is they're not going to see Johnston until the final. So only time will tell on that one.
Well, they need to beat Juanita Sanchez to hold the 2, don't they? Because if they lose to Juanita Sanchez, it flips and they become the 3. If I read it right. Now that's the thing. Like,
either way, if they're the 2-3, they're most likely to be in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Which, if they won that game, would theoretically bring them to the finals with Johnston. Which, again, all theory, like anything could happen. It's the playoffs. Yeah. We saw that last season in Division III.
True. Yeah, and the year before that, if you can recall, St. Ray's made a run. Like, they were the 8th seed or the 7th seed, and all of a sudden they found themselves in the final. It was like, all right, look at that.
It's going to be a battle down in Division III, especially if more than 8 teams make it. I mean, you're going to have to win a lot of games in some cases to have yourself a chance.
Yeah, and that St. Ray's team is built very similar to where they were 2 years ago. They have Big Moses Mayu, I hope I'm saying his last name correct. He's probably the best athlete in the whole tournament. Like, Moses is a monster, and he's probably a better football player than he is volleyball player, but he does some real cool stuff at the net. And they're the team that really pushed Johnston to a scary level because they lost 25-23 twice. The second set was, I believe, a 16er, but 25-23 is right there. Certainly Situate took a set from him, but it was a 26-24 set, and the rest of the scores weren't too pretty. Yeah. So I think I like St. Ray's. I like St. Ray's. I like Woonsocket. And then I haven't really seen Juanita Sanchez play, except if you followed them the whole season, they do seem to have a knack of knocking off top seeds, except for Johnston. So
yeah, I mean, they've done a really good job with this program. especially being brand new. Like, I'm certainly impressed with where they are, and regardless of how their season ends, they should definitely be proud of how far they got.
Mm-hmm. We'll see what ends up happening. Do you have any? Well, the last week of the season is here, and again that Juanita Sanchez Tolman Shea match is pretty important. Although, like you said, the result's not really going to change too much. But second seed is a nicer place to be than the third seed because you get to host all the way through and all that fun stuff.
Going to determine home court for the semifinals. But I've been in both of those gyms before, both Juanita Sanchez and Tolman. Both of those gyms, no matter where it will be rocking for a semifinal match.
Oh, that's great.
It'll be an amazing atmosphere. Like, if you have the opportunity, it'll be a fun one.
Yeah. Jack, you get that big atmosphere at URI? Get a lot of people cheering for you?
Oh, yeah. It's booming in Keeney Gym.
I love Keeney Gym, by the way. It's like one of my favorite gyms in the state. It's really a wonderful place to play.
I think it's great. It just needs some people.
Needs people. Well, it's
got the chairs, so that helps.
That does have the chairs. The chairs are nice. Although I've really gotten into like bringing my own little cushy chair to gyms. Oh man, I don't know how I lived without it.
That thing cracks me up, Res.
I don't know how I lived without it, dude. Once you try it, you'll never go back, dude. It is the best. I was, because I'm getting older, but you're sitting on those bleachers and within 15, 20 minutes, you can't feel your tail. Like, it's not good. It's not good. Right. I need to feel my body. I need to be able to know that the blood is coursing through my veins. And then
you got one of those?
I don't yet, no. But of course, most matches I go to, I'm just standing. I can stand and blow the whistle, be all official and stuff.
Tell you boys, go to Amazon, pick one up for $40-$50, bring it wherever you go, proud. And then when you sit down, you're like, "Ooh, this is just different. This is just different." And you'll never want to go back. Never, ever, ever. So, all right. Well, that's Division 3. Probably a strong bet that Johnston has. If you're gonna really pick a winner there, probably Johnston can close the deal. You think and win throughout. I mean, that's hard to do. It's hard to run the table from start to finish.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, the house money would probably be on Johnston. There's some smaller bets to be made on Juanita Sanchez, Tolman, Woonsocket, and St. Ray's, but it's a tough hill to climb for every team in that division. I mean, second place, it means you might get there, but it doesn't guarantee you much of anything other than home court. It's really about it.
Easier ride home.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Division 3. Let's move on to Division 2, which has actually been a fun one to follow. Because there's
crazy recently.
Especially recently. You said it right, perfect. Barrington coming out of left field from the top rope, whatever cliche you want to use, to stun Cranston West this past week to take the number 1 seed. Now, I don't think West thought at all that was where this was going to go this season. They clobbered Barrington in their first meeting, and that was at the Eagle Nest. That was at Barrington's home, and it was not close. So I think
on top of that, that's a tough gym to go to.
Really, it is. It's not a fun place to play.
The travel to Barrington is rough.
Yep.
It's a brutal ride.
It is. And then next thing you know, Barrington just never lost. Like, they just kept winning games. In came Lincoln, and Lincoln was like, "Oh, this is." Lincoln's really made a strong push. Very talented team coming out of their backyard to play, and that was a trap game for Barrington. Got through it. Took on Westerly, got through it, and then when they played Cranston West, it was like, yeah, we got the same record. And it went 5. It was brutal. Injuries everywhere. It was a slugfest. And at the end, Barrington had the W. So does Cranston, I guess the first question, does Cranston West bounce back from that well? I mean, they were missing Sprumulo, right? Sprumulo?
Yeah.
He was not available due to injury, I believe, or something like that.
That's what I had heard from Chris Harvey.
Yeah, and Logan Reed wasn't feeling great either. He was in a struggle situation. So there were some reasons why there was trouble for the Falcons. But at the same time, you got to give Barrington the credit because they did hold Mac to only 9 kills in 5 sets. Dude's been hitting 800 all year or something like that.
Yep.
And they held him to 9. They couldn't slow down Harvey. Harvey had 16, but Maddox and company did the job. But they lost Kelly. What set 4?
I think set 3 or set 4, late set 3, early set 4, somewhere around there.
Cam Kelly's the other big gun for them. So, yeah, what do you think? Does the Falcons, can the Falcons bounce back quickly?
I think that probably just depends on what the timeline looks like for Lucian. Do you guys know that, Spramolo?
I have not heard anything.
Because I feel like he does a lot for that team. He's a pretty good serve receiver. He takes a good chunk of the court. He's just another piece of their very big block. They block pretty well, and then when he's in the front row, their left side attack is much stronger than when he's not.
Definitely.
Yeah, and he becomes the focal point if for some reason Mac is not rolling well. Like once Mac is sort of subdued, which hasn't happened a lot this year. I mean, Christian's played very, very well all year, and Harvey as well. But once those two guys sort of get slowed down, their out is going to Lucian. So if that kid's not available, that changes things a little bit. And certainly the Eagles were able to really not abuse it, but make their moves when they needed to to get the job done. But yeah, good point, Jack. Is Lucian going to be available? If he's not, that changes their game plan. That changes what they're capable of doing. And I don't know how many more switches or things you're going to add or subtract. Guy like me likes to be like, all right, well, if he's not there, let's move this guy over here and let's do this over there. And of course, all you guys laugh at me when I bring that up. But at the same time, some of it works. Some of it doesn't.
I got a similar question though about Cam Kelly, because that's also an important piece, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Big part of their offense.
Yeah. He plays a huge role. He's part of their, he's a left side attacker, got a big arm on him. Actually has a bigger arm on him than Godwin does, I think. But at the same time, he passes pretty well or keeps them in that serve receive, and they rely on him pretty heavy. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who's healthy and who's not. And Barrington, let me see. Doesn't Barrington have a big match coming up? Who do they play? I think they play.
So they have Pilgrim and East Providence next week with a non-league match against Hendricken.
Yeah. So that East Providence match could be interesting. If you're missing Cam Kelly and, you're feeling overconfident after beating the Falcons, and then DJ Lapine comes in and starts bombing balls away.
Honestly, if I'm Barrington, even if Cam Kelly's healthy, I might be keeping him off the court for East Providence. Just for the sake of, at this point, there's no way they can drop any lower than the 2nd seed, and I don't know if the math works out to drop any lower than the 1st. Might as well save him for the playoffs, have him get the chance to roll then. But who knows what'll happen there, honestly. That's all assuming he's ready for that.
You think DJ can have a big night and they can overcome a Cam Kelly-less Barrington team?
I think he'd be capable of it, yeah. As long as East Providence feeds him the ball, DJ will find his way to score. He's stubborn like that.
He is. He's good though, and he
is very good.
I just figured out today, as I was finishing writing an article, that East Providence is just the D2 version of Charahoe. It's the same exact team.
Yep.
Built the same exact way, and still getting
their center from last year, made him a pin, and he's the pin.
Yeah, that's right. Keep feeding him the ball. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. I would think that Barrington is going to want to hold on to that 1 seed for bragging rights, if nothing else, and also again to make everyone come to their gym, which will happen if they're the 2nd seed too. But I think they like the idea of knocking Cranston West off that perch. But again, you got to get past East Providence. Do we know who Cranston West plays?
Cranston West has 1 match remaining. It's their senior night at home versus Westerly.
Ooh, that's a dangerous match too.
It could be after dropping 1 to Barrington. That's got to be a little bit of a mental challenge there.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's your senior night, so kind of want to win that one. You always want to win that one.
Yeah, but if you're not playing everybody, if somebody's hurt, Like, yeah, that's a tough one. I think Jack Kenyon's crew there at Westerly could easily cause some discomfort in that match.
For the second time.
Yeah, I mean, they've beaten him already once.
Beat him already once. It'll be an interesting match. Interesting to see how that turns out. That being said, the math doesn't work out. Like Westerly can't overtake West. Like they're going to stay in their same position, but more of a moral victory at that point if Westerly does get the win there.
Well, if you can get them to fall twice to you, you got to feel good if you see them in the playoffs, right? Or I don't know if you're gonna. I mean, the problem with all this stuff is that the seedings and all the things that come into play, you don't know how it's all going to fall until the very end. We're all making hypothetical guesses. So,
but at this point, I'm fairly certain, unless there's some math out there that I'm not aware of, that both Barrington and Cranston West will have first round byes in the playoffs, unless for whatever reason the Interscholastic League decides to ingest 2 more teams to make it an 8-team playoff. At the moment, there's only 6 that are in. No one else is knocking on the door. No one has the ability to get enough wins to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I just take top 8, call it a day. I know the win percentage thing, like it's sort of I get it, but top 8, let's roll. And that way.
I'm with you on that. I can't every other sport, there's a pretty clear, you take this many teams and you just have to make that cutoff regardless of what else happens. Yeah. Not a fan of the 30%, 40%.
Ben, do you know where that came from? Was that 2 years ago?
I have no knowledge. My best guess might be related to COVID or just interscholastic sports in general. There are sometimes instances outside of the school's control that cause games to be postponed indefinitely. So now it becomes a matter of, well, we probably would have won that game if it happened and we would have been in the top 8, but now it didn't. So we don't have this much. So everyone just kind of said, all right, have to win this percentage of your games. So if you don't get one, you still have a chance. That's the only thing I can think of that causes that rule to be in effect.
Jack, you were the high school coach for Charahoe last year. Was that ever brought up? Was that something they were talking about?
No, I never heard about it, and I knew we were hitting that 30%, so I just didn't
bother. Interesting. Well, I mean, again, I would like to see 8 teams there. They're going to do what they're going to do. I don't like buys there. If everyone else is going to play, possibly 8 teams for the playoffs, they should probably do it for D2 as well. But certainly, if you're Barrington and Cranston West, you got to feel pretty good. Like you're going to probably do pretty well. I mean, again, hosting and then probably seeing each other in a final is the best bet. But Westerly's out there, and then East Providence is dangerous, and then that Lincoln team. Let's talk about that Lincoln team. So
started their season at 1-6.
Yeah,
now they're at 7-7. They completely reversed it.
There's a 3-way tie for 4th in the loss column. So you have Central, Lincoln, and East Providence, and
all at 7-7.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lincoln is definitely the team with the most, upside. I mean, those guys. I mean, they've put it together now, and they have a very good outside hitter in Wayne McNamara, and they got a very big middle in Tyler Dickinson. I mean, they can do some cool stuff over there. I think they have some ball control issues, but everyone's got ball control issues. That's sort of how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, East Providence even does 2-man service, even 1 or 2 of their rotations. So
oh wow, yeah. You know what? You bring up a good point. There's been a lot of 2-man serve receive this year. I can't recall the last time I've seen this many 2-man serve receive.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you hardly ever do it ever.
I've only ever considered it once, and I didn't have to, thankfully.
Jack, have you ever been a part of a 2-man serve receive?
No, and I don't envy anyone who has.
It feels brutal. Like it's got to not be fun. Sit in there, especially if someone's serving darts and you have huge seams that you have to sort of protect. Oh.
But I will say though, I think I've seen it twice, and both times the opposing team just kind of served right at one of the dudes, which drove me a little crazy. You've got so much court space and you're just lasering it at people.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean,
I would always the way somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we never saw it this year at the club level for 18-1s. I never saw a 2-man serve receive, but you know.
I did once at 18 threes.
Did you?
First thing I told one of my guys is I'm like, if you put it on top of them, that's wrong. Just serve where the floor is.
Serve them where they ain't. It's like baseball. Hit them where they ain't. That's what you got to do there.
Our only goal is to find the floor. If they move, good job, good serve. That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. It's two-man serve receive is very, very hard. So I've been massively surprised as I've floated along all the divisions how many teams have been trying to utilize that. Some of them do a decent job. Like, to be fair, if you pass the ball on a two-man serve receive and you're able to get out of that rotation quickly, then that's great. But man, that's hard. I don't like that at all. But that Lincoln team, I would not want to play that Lincoln team right now. That
Absolutely
Lincoln team
not. They are very dangerous.
very difficult to deal with. Let's see. Right now, Lincoln's on the board at 13. Like, they just jumped on the first, so that their first week is the last week of the season that they're on the board.
And who are they playing?
Their way up there.
Pardon me?
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was done.
Who are they playing this week?
They have they're at home against West Warwick, and then they're away at Central. Those are two matches this week.
A Central match will be big. Like, that'll sort of decide it.
Yeah.
And West Warwick's decent. Like, West Warwick has a good middle, and Nate Vaness, assuming I'm saying his name right. And again, for everybody out there, I am terrible with names. I do the best I can, but if I butcher your name, I deeply apologize. It's not my intention. But Vanessa is pretty good in the middle, and I love AJ Martinez at the lib. He's probably the top lib in D2. The kid makes plays. I mean, it's funny because if you get to see West Warwick play, a lot of times, as coaches, we all tend to put either our lib, at the tee or deep in 6. For the Wizards, they put him dead center of the court. He just sits and waits.
Oh, that's great. I haven't seen that yet, but
oh, dude, it's wild. And he's pretty good. Like, he's able to do it. It's really something else. I got to do one of their matches.
If it doesn't work.
Yeah, I got to
do.
do.
Stupid if it doesn't work.
I was refereeing West Warwick Colgate, and they just, he's just popped dead zero, and he's just waiting for everything that happens. And sometimes he gets beat, sometimes he doesn't, but he makes a lot of plays. I think, what was it? They have 38 the other night, 38 digs. Check what I got here.
Just picking everything up.
Yeah, he had 38 digs against Central,
wow.
Which is, that's probably that's the highest number of digs I've heard. I might be wrong. There might be somebody who got a 40, but I felt like 38 is probably exactly right at the top of the level that we've seen.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like 38 digs in a match.
Yeah.
How many sets was it? Do you know?
That's a great question. I don't know. It would have to be 4 or 5. Maybe you can look it up.
They were playing Central, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a 5-setter. But even so, I mean, that's you're above 7 digs per set. Like, that's 7 attempts for the other team to score that you have stopped. It's pretty impressive.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Central for a little bit too. They're sort of a Charaho type team as well with their middle / outside Jet Nascimento. This kid Jet's playing well. I mean, he's a scoring machine and a data machine. Like, he just puts numbers up. Like, in that West Warwick match, they had 19 kills, 23 digs, and 2 blocks. And I mean, he's been doing that all year. Just huge stat lines where you're just like, whoa, look at that.
I mean, if you could score, you might as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that, he's sort of a middle outside. He'll block middle for a little bit. He'll play outside, but the amount of digs that we're seeing from middles now are pretty interesting. Like Jared Sampson for North Kingstown, he's playing all 6 rotations, and he's getting around, getting what, 15 digs or 20 digs here. He's doing decent stuff.
Well, Jared Sampson, he got thrown into the outside position for a game. As far as I'm aware, has never played it, at least seriously, and put up a double-double.
Yeah. I tell you, I mean, that's another thing. I haven't seen at the college level, I haven't seen a middle play all 6 rotations. It never happened in my career. Like I heard it happen prior to me, like 2006, when Riviera University used their middle for all 6 rotations because the dude was an All-American. And
That's a pretty good reason.
Yeah, and he's 6'6" and just grab balls with his mitts and put it to target. And that was
I mean, I as a coach have never done it except out of necessity. Like,
not somewhere you want to be.
but that did work for me. Thank you, Derek Yang.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I'd ever seen that was bad teams or teams with just not enough players. But I mean, NK's good team, Central's doing work. So
yeah. And for classical, Alpha Berry's considered a middle/pin too, and he's on the floor a lot.
Yeah, I've had them a bunch this year. If you look at their lineup and who's opposite and who does what, like Alpha technically plays out of the middle, and I'm fairly confident I've seen him swing from everywhere except the front row or except the back row.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of technically on that team.
Yeah. Well,
they just do what needs to be done in any given moment.
No one on that team is an outside, middle, or opposite. They are all hitters or they are all blockers. And they do that with a stunning level of efficiency.
Well, I'm not ready to start talking D1, but I mean, certainly that classical team is really an interesting team to watch, especially if you're a coach. Like you're watching what they're doing. Their scheme and their system is pretty wild. I like it. I was watching their setter James Men really just run this really interesting offense where lots of slides, lots of strange little almost hit plays. Like, all right, we're gonna just stay there for one and push you and go there, and stuff like that. It was very interesting level of play. They're a fun group to watch. Yeah. They're also super hit or miss. Like if it's on, it's a war. If it's off, you're gonna get out of there quickly and feel pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
so I don't know. So we got Dr. JP in the chat. He asked if we've gone around and made finals predictions yet. Not yet, sir. We haven't done our finals predictions. We'll finish that at the end. But we are talking a little bit about right now in Division 2. Let's see. What do we have for Division 2 that I guess one of the things we should talk about? It just dawned on me, like who's the dark horse? Who's the one that's coming out of left field that might win this thing for both D2 and D1? And D3, excuse me.
My opinion on D3, not exactly a dark horse, but someone who I could see if you're not completely prepared will have a massive upset is Woonsocket. Woonsocket has at least one kid on their team, Devin Merrill.
Devin, yeah.
Serves a ton. I mean, I watched him, I think, rattle off 12 on Central Falls. And I'm not saying, 12 over the course of the match. I'm saying in a row in one set.
Oh, wow.
Just ace after ace after ace or out of system ball. Like he makes people very, very uncomfortable. If he is going back to serve, you need to have a solid serve receive.
They've used him as an attacker and as a setter. And actually, again, going back to some of the things we talked about at the beginning as we were just getting this live stream going and I wasn't sure what I was doing. where you have this idea where you have a lot of setters that have been turned into attackers to high level. Matty Tiernan at Charo is the premier example, but you could say DJ Lapine at East Providence and certainly there's some other examples as well. But here comes that thought experiment. Which is better, to have your gun be the setter and getting everyone good balls, or to have them hit and do work offensively? When I did get a chance to see Woonsocket play, watching video on him, and I kind of liked it when he was setting. I didn't like him as much as an attacker, but if you're not getting kills, what do you do? What do you think there, Jack?
Exactly.
I think that's going to have to depend on your situation, I guess, because I guess it's working out pretty well for Charahoe and the Townies, both having their setter or last year's setter, I suppose, do a lot of attacking. I guess it just might depend on the quality of the other attackers around them. If you've got enough other firepower, then let them set. Otherwise, if you need to score, you need to score. That's how you win the game.
What do you think, Ben?
feel like a good hitter can make an okay or a bad set a good set. Just basically, they will find a way to score, but a bad hitter might not be able to score with a good set. So it becomes the idea of, if you have a setter who can't get the ball to your hitters efficiently, well, you need to find someone who can hit efficiently and kind of sort of set.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, I remember when the season started and, I heard that Tiernan was going to hit, and I was so like, no, that's not what you should do. You have the best setter in the state. Why would you do that? And of course, I've been proven wrong. The kid's hit, a gazillion hundred and has nearly 500 kills. So like, Maddie's done a tremendous job over there. And again, you could say that with DJ as well. DJ's played very, very well on the pen. And they found another setter, just like Charahoe found another setter. Cody Poplawski's done a nice job for Charahoe. So I don't know. I maybe the higher the level gets, like, to me, the setter position just becomes so crucial, because you need to have somebody that can consistently put the ball in a good spot that allows your attackers to do work. And if you don't have that, especially at the college level, Jack, you don't want to be hitting high balls against Springfield. Like, it doesn't make sense, because you're going to be miserable. Like, you don't want to be running, a high pipe ball against SUNY New Paltz. You don't want to be running, a high ball to the red side against Hawaii. Like, everything has to be fast and in the same zone. And for that, it's always been on my mind that you need to have your top setter stay there, and you need to have some pins that can work with them. But in this case, it's worked out well.
But like you said, it kind of depends on the level, right? And we're not playing New Paltz. And then the other thing that came to mind just now is that both those guys, DJ and Tiernan, both played other positions and played other kinds of volleyball. So they've got experience doing things like passing and hitting. That can't be said for every setter, but those two, they've got some experience doing different things.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of off-season play, right? Playing beach, playing grass, pass and swing. If you play 2-on-2 grass, 2-on-2 beach, you get all those experiences. So now if you're asked to do something like that, it's not absolutely foreign. So I know both those guys do a lot of that work. And actually, DJ's played left for you, right, Ben? And
he was my O2 all season at club.
Yeah. So he's had some experience there. But the Tiernan thing's interesting, because as far as I know, he's always just been a setter.
Outside of beach,
I've been working with him for 3 years at the club level, and certainly watched him play. And you worked with him for a year, Jack. I mean, I've never seen him do anything but set. So for him to be the 0-1 for that Charahoe team and taking 40, 50 swings a night, pretty wild.
Yeah, it's got to hurt.
Pretty wild.
Back on Woonsocket just for a second, I do actually kind of like the move of Devin Merrill over to the right, because every now and then, at least in that particular type of system, if they go out of system, he's right there. So he's decent enough secondary setter, secondary hands to get the ball to somebody, but he also provides some stability on the right side for them. Like, it gives them the opportunity to be threatening all across the net, because every now and then they have to run a classical type offense to really get someone to bang a ball, but it works for them. Like, he'll serve receive for them. He swings for them. I've seen him run the middle a couple times. Really, really versatile player that is probably one of the better ones on that team. And the other setter, I think Andrew is his name, and I don't know his last name offhand, but Andrew's stepped up. Very few balls are misses. Like, not much is going over, not much is outside of the antenna. Like, he's pretty solid for what that team is and what that team needs.
Yeah, but that also leads to one of the things that I like to say a lot when dealing with anyone's team, is that we're not in their gym. We don't know, how the coach feels about where their training's at, who's doing what well, who's struggling, who's playing very, very well, who's missed practices. Like, you're not in that person's gym, so you don't know, what's going on. It's really nice and easy. And Jack, I know you are enjoying this part of the gig way more than you were when you were the head coach at Charahoe, which is really easy to, Monday morning quarterback stuff. Like, hey, you should have done this. I made my whole career on that, right now. Like, So you don't know what's going on in their gym. But again, I like that kid setting. I got a chance to see him run, a 5-1, and I was like, wow, that's where I would keep him. But again, if they feel that he's their best option on the right or as a left, beat him. Give him the ball.
Absolutely.
Give him the ball. So that's your dark horse, your long odds. How about a long odds guy for Division III? Do you have a long odds guy, Jack?
I don't know if the odds are too long, but I would say Juanita Sanchez, just given that they're on something of a win streak right now, right?
Yeah, I mean
bringing that good momentum into the playoffs is big, because I feel like when things get tight in the playoffs, it's a lot about how you're feeling and how you're doing mentally, if not necessarily about what you're capable of physically. If you can't keep it together up here.
Yeah, I mean everyone feels physically kind of run down and rough in our sport by the end of the season. Like that's just a common thing. I mean, it's why every volleyball program or team or club or college team that you see, they all got rollers, they all got bandaged up, they're all doing all sorts of stuff to get their body to feel as good as possible. But you're always playing uncomfortable. So really it's the momentum and it's the mindset and it's the camaraderie and how your team acts that puts you to the next level come playoff time. It is a mind game, especially for players. So yeah, I mean, I could see Juanita Sanchez. I'm going to go with St. Ray's mainly because I think St. Ray's is super athletic. I think that they've gone on runs like this in their past and have done some cool stuff. I think they're the only team that physically can put the clamps down on the middles for the Panthers. Like I think, with Moses and Ian Bing, they're able to really hold the line there. It's a shame that they've lost as many as they have, but I think they can come out of left field and cause some discomfort and make a big run. So that's my long odds horse. What about D2? I mean, long odds for me is easy. I like Lincoln. I think Lincoln is a problem. So
I
that's
gotta
who
agree with you there.
I think Lincoln's the team that could make a real big run and find themselves in the final by accident and be like, oh, look at this. Let's go win this, guys.
Like my personal opinion, I had their first match at Lincoln against East Providence. At the time, Lincoln was doing pretty well. They were rolling, but in the second set, their big middle got hurt. And all of a sudden, there's not a blocker on the one guy in East Providence who could take swings, or at least not a big one. So now it becomes a 5-set war that East Providence eventually won. Now, I don't know how it would have happened if that middle would have stayed in. Like I said, DJ's stubborn. He'll find a way to score. But not having a 6'10" guy in the middle makes a really big difference when that's how your defense and even offense is really focused.
Well, Tyler Dickinson, the 6'10" middle, he just signed with Riviera U, so that's where he's going. And they're going to turn him into a very good middle. He's pretty solid right now, but they'll take him to the next level.
Absolutely.
Who do you have for your long odds there, Jack?
Yeah, this might be a boring pick, but I've got to agree with you guys on Lincoln. As you guys have said, the games they've lost, they looked good doing it, if that makes sense. Still playing good volleyball, even if not getting the results they wanted. So I think they're a lot better than their record indicates.
We got someone in the chat who likes Westerly. And I like Westerly a lot. Like I loved the Kenyon brothers. Like I think they do a real nice job. Certainly they're big and physical and Jack can take over a game by himself. They do a lot of good things over there. I just wonder if they're going to be able to push. I mean, they don't have an answer for Barrington right now. They haven't figured him out yet.
Last season, remember, Westerly was the number 3 seed, found themselves in the finals, a lot like this year, and pushed Mount St. Charles to 5. When the lights are the brightest, they find a way.
That team was awesome. You remember they had a bunch of lefties on that team, and they ran just a special. As a person who's coached volleyball for 20 years, I've never seen the system that they were running before, and I thought it was brilliant. It was like, we're not even going to try. I mean, certainly they're trying to get the ball to the setter, but if by chance the ball was off, whoever's closest to the setter and find somebody.
They're basically running a 6-6.
Yeah,
Like, no one's the setter. If you're closest, just set a tempo ball. We'll figure out the rest.
it was really cool, and it was very successful, and they absolutely scared Mount St. Charles. Like the hybrid was not happy with that match.
That's
And
basically the same team we have this year in Division One.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they didn't. I don't think they lost anything. I can't recall anyone they lost.
Yeah, and I mean they're not nearly as physical as they are this year. I mean that Mount St. Charles team last year was a lot of dinking and dunking, a lot of set overs, a lot of polite swings to the middle. This year's team is more, there's more physicality to it. That kid Matchett's really really good in the middle. He's a hammer. I think Caden Sullivan at the setter position's come along really well. Like he runs a very good offense now. He's bigger block than all the other setters out there. And with D'Souza on the left, who's able to score and really, maintain good ball control with Ben Souza, it's a tough team. And the other middle is really good too. So yeah, that team's built to run, and we'll talk about them next. But all right, so if there was going to be a final prediction, we'll jump in there. You've pushed us there, Dr. JP. I love it. There's a final prediction for Division 3. Who do you got?
Just for the finals?
Just for the finals.
I have Johnston and Tolman in the finals.
Big Jack?
I'm going to say Johnston, Juanita Sanchez. I think Johnston wins in 4.
And is the team right now. And I'm going to go. Yeah, I mean, I like St. Ray's, but I don't like St. Ray's that much. I think I'm gonna go with Johnston Tolman as well. I like that Tolman side. I would love to see Carpenteri get it done. Dom's a good kid, and he's a good setter, and he's done a nice job. It'd be nice to see them in the final. And I still think Johnston has too many weapons. I think it'd be a 4-set win for Johnston. But again, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot can happen in a lot of the write-ups recently. I've talked a lot about, anything can happen on a Saturday afternoon on a neutral court, at a college campus. So, who knows? But I think that's probably how it's going to be. And then for D2, do we get the replay of Barrington Cranston West?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we're going to get a few scares in a few quarterfinals and semifinals, but I think we're going to find ourselves with a Barrington Cranston West final.
Big Jack?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And then I think the winner there kind of will be determined by how physically fit Spromolo is. If he's out or he's there but he's not himself, then I think Barrington takes it, just because they can focus all their defensive attention on Christian Mack. But if Spromolo's there and feeling good, I think West wins.
I'm going Barrington Lincoln. I love the Lions. Give me a Lions shirt. Let's get rolling. Like let's do it. I think Wayne McNamara is going to have himself a tournament, and I think that Barrington, the Eagles are going to be shocked. I'm like, what is this? And certainly, Dickinson can slow down what they're doing in the middle and probably able to make things at least mildly complicated for Godwin and Kelly if he's available. And certainly it would take some real cleanup of their ball control for the Lions to make it that far, but I love it. Why not? Like they're high flying, they do a lot of stuff, they're dangerous, they're putting it all together right now. But I think the D2 playoff is going to be very interesting because I think Barrington, Cranston West, Westerly, East Providence, and Lincoln are a great set of 5 teams. Like I think they all have some cool stuff that they do, and I think that it's going to be a slugfest. So who comes out of that? Probably Barrington. Like Barrington looked real good, and Godwin is probably a next level guy in that league. But man, it'd be fun to see somebody come out of left field. Like, give me a Lion shirt. Let's go. All right, so let's talk some D1. This is where everyone's a little bit more comfortable, mainly because that's where you coached Jack, and now Jack can really dig his teeth in on what we're talking about. So Cranston East in the finals. Yes, Jack? No? What?
That's what I'm hearing from Cranston East Gym. Unfortunately, not from anywhere else, but
Well, the real thing is, Jethro Vargas got hurt day one, right? First match in hitting lines, unfortunate. And by the way, it's not the first time I've seen that. I was calling a game at Riviera University against Wentworth, I believe. It was either Wentworth, it must have been Wentworth. And Jack Normandin, their All-American, did the same thing. In warm-ups, jumped up, came down, broke something, and he was out for the rest of the year. So I mean, it's not unheard of, and it's sort of what our sport is. Like, it's a lot of explosive and landing. Everyone jumps well. It's the landing. It's always sort of an adventure.
That's the part that gets you.
It does. So, like, I hated to see
Anyone can
that.
fall.
I hated to see that happen to Vargas. I mean, I hate to see that happen to anybody. It's the worst possible thing that can go, as you're getting ready and geared up for your senior year. But there has been rumors that the kid is feeling pretty good and might make a return. I mean, have you heard anything like that, Jack?
I've heard that, but I've heard that for about the last 4 weeks, and I don't really know what to make of that. But I mean, if they got him back, it would certainly change the makeup of that team. The lineup's been changing ever since, basically.
Yeah, trying to find something that works.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that he's played 8 varsity matches last year, and he's going to pop into the playoffs and go off. I mean, it seems unlikely, but I mean, stranger things have happened. Ben?
If he comes back, I think they have a chance, at least more so than they do now. The way it's looking, playoffs start today. If he comes back, his first game back is at LaSalle for the quarterfinals, and that's just trial by fire. That's rough.
Would they be the 8th seed?
They'd be the 7th.
Who's the 8th?
8 would be Hendricken if they make it.
Which I don't think that's happening.
Mathematically, they're not eliminated.
Really? I thought last night with them losing, that was the end.
Who'd they lose to last night?
They lost to East Greenwich in 4.
No, so they have a non-league match against Barrington this week, then 2 league matches against SK and Classical. They need to win both. They win both of those matches, they'll make it as the 8th seed. But that doesn't change Cranston East playing LaSalle first round at LaSalle.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
it's a tall task for Hendricken. It might depend what version of Classical they get, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like, if Classical's missing some people, or I mean, that's at Classical too. That's tough to play. It's a great gym. A lot of good support in there. It's a very tough place to play. The SK is probably doable, but
yeah, it's gonna come down to the last match. And how much do you want it?
That's why that Cranston East match was huge. Like, that mattered a ton. If they could steal that one from Cranston East, they lost in 5. Probably puts them both in still comfortably, but now it's like, and hey, there was a rumor. Now I might be wrong on this. That's why it's called a rumor, I suppose. But there was a rumor that Cranston West last year did not qualify for the playoffs, but was offered the 9th spot to play the 1 seed anyway. Is that accurate? Anyone hear that before? I
have not heard anything, but if there's anyone out there from Cranston West who's watching, I'm sure they would come up to tell me otherwise later on.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard that just the other day, and I was like, that's nonsense. I mean,
they had 2 wins last year. Like,
yeah. Oh, what they did play in the playoffs though. They were the 8th seed, and they played who was the 1 seed back then? LaSalle?
I think that was NK.
NK.
Yeah. If it was 2 wins, then I might be a little more likely to believe that, because how many games was it? There's no way that's 30% of the games.
Last year it was 5 or 6. I think he needed.
Interesting. Maybe they took our suggestion at the Interscholastic League and just took 8 teams regardless.
They should. I mean, they should. So, yeah, absolutely should. So that's interesting. So I mean, I would love to see Hendrick. I feel like every playoffs needs a Hendricken squad. Certainly this year they've struggled a little bit, and actually they've just been snake bit from the start to finish. Like, they just have really, everything that could go wrong has. And it started with Brock, getting surgery and not being available. That would have helped them a ton. So he's out, and certainly Garapi was missing for a lot of the first half of the season. And they've just never really put it together. They've never been able to really get everything going. But playoffs, it'd be nice to see them. It's always nice to see the Hendricken team there, and if they're there, they can do some damage because they all, that Hendricken history of playing good volleyball and surprising teams or winning is very prevalent. So we'll see. I don't know if they get the Cranston West invite. I would say if I wouldn't want to play Hendricken at any time in the playoffs because it's always going to be a fight. But again, this year they've struggled. But right now, the top teams in the Dr. JP's working overtime for us. Thank you, sir. West finished 5-14 last season.
Okay, so that probably did get them enough. Well, actually, we've been told it did get them enough.
So the top 5 teams right now, NK is the 1 seed, LaSalle's the 2, Mount St. Charles the 3. Let's see here, Charahoe's the 4, and Classical's the 5. Although EG and Classical are sort of right in the same boat. Is EG ahead of Classical? I have Classical ahead on the top 15 only because they just beat EG in 5 and felt that was deserving of a little bump for them.
Interscholastic League website's a little behind. I don't know some of Classical's results.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they lost at LaSalle on 5-17.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so that gives them one more loss than EG has at the very least.
If they have the same record, what does that come down to? Head to head?
I think it would be head to head, wouldn't it? And wouldn't it be sets played, like sets lost? So
that makes the most sense, yeah.
So if EG played Classical in 1 and 4, and then they just recently lost in 5, technically speaking, they would have the tiebreaker in the head to head because less games to do it, and Classical would have more losses.
Getting confirmation from Dr. JP that EG has the 5 spot.
I love this Dr. JP. Welcome, man. You should get him on board. You get him on board.
Character here.
But yeah, so East Greenwich, we can talk a little bit about them briefly. Look, they got 2 real good arms in Dobrzansky and Stanger. Both those guys are very, very good. My biggest concern, I wrote about it today, is that 80% of their offense comes on the left side of the floor. Like you got to somehow figure out a way to mix it up. Now, this past match against Hendricken, Silverman wasn't available. So Warburton set, and he did a great job. Generally Spencer's the lid for them. And I thought he did a nice job stepping in and run the offense in that match. But yeah, everything is going to the left and you're always pushing everything to the left. Like that's not a hard puzzle to figure out. And certainly Stanger and Dobby can figure some stuff and work some stuff and really battle a decent block, but through a 5-set grinder, like it's not gonna, quite frankly, that's how Mount St. Charles beat them. It was like, all right, we know what's going left. Let's stack our guys and set our block. And
to their credit, I did like seeing Aiden Huff on the right. I believe that's who it was.
Yep.
He put in the work when he needed to against Classical. I think he only got blocked a couple of times, but all the other times he was finding deep corner, finding just somewhere where the defense wasn't. So maybe as he gets more comfortable there, we'll start to see a little bit more production, and that spreads their offense out a bit, just to take some of the load off of Stanger and Dobrzansky.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about is, the amount of, because their blocking schematic is sort of up and down. Like they have Gressman, I think it's Gressman, right? The right side, who moved to the middle.
Yeah, Gressman.
Yeah, bouncy middle. Like he works hard and gets off the ground pretty well. Because he's still learning the position, you're going to give up, some points in 6. Like people are just going to get through. But like you can take a DS and put him there, or even start whoever, Stanger or Dobrzansky, in that 6th spot, and then on transition, if you get a dig, run those guys out of the D to spread everything out. You can run a back row D attack with both of those guys, and at least make everyone defend the net, the entire net. So
yep.
Does that work for them? I don't know. Certainly you wouldn't do it if Aiden's on the right side in the front row, but Or you could take Aiden and say, listen, you're going to be our right side, but any offense, we're going to run a back one here. Come in quick, and then that D ball belongs to either Bill Brzezinski or Stanger. We should have ran that at Jay Wu a little bit. Like, I think the more I think about these things as years go by, Jack, I'm like, God, yeah, we should have ran that too.
Oh, I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
Or what they could do is they could have one of them play as a receiving right side.
Yeah.
They like their serve receive unit, keep that intact, and then just have the kid attack from the right.
Yeah. But you got to spread out the net. If everything's located on one side of the net, that makes it a real easy situation. I mean, I've seen matches in years past where, if that the offense is coming on the left, like everyone just takes their 3 blockers and moves them all the way over there and just waits.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh boy. I mean, everyone knows it's going there, so we're gonna plop our 3 blockers there. And then the other thing people don't realize is that, yeah, we're moving our blockers over there knowing that's where it's going to go, but we've also just told the back row exactly where it's coming from, so they can find a nice spot, dig in, and get their hands out and see if they can touch a ball if it gets past the block. So that's why the puzzle has to be a little bit more complex than that. But Stanger and Dobby can do work, man. I mean, they're definitely dangerous, and Silverman's a very good setter. Like Spencer at the lib. Like, that's a good little team. They can do some stuff. Now, Classical, we've already talked a little bit about them, but they're the opposite. They're a very unique puzzle. Like, it's hard to know where it's coming from. And
they're calling out play by play where they're going.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've seen Alpha Berry hit everywhere on the net.
Yeah.
I've seen their outsides hit everywhere on the net. The only person who I'm fairly certain I know where they hit is Derek Yang, and I think he's on the right, but sometimes he's in the middle.
Well, Archer does a nice job in the middle too. Like, they run him slide after slide, and sometimes, I mean, it is the exact opposite of EG, and maybe that's why they've had a 5-set war already, and they're probably destined to meet each other in the playoffs again, because they're polar opposites. Whereas everything on EG is pretty scripted and what's going on the left. Classical, it could come at you from anywhere, and who knows? And it will. Yeah. Who knows where it's coming from?
If they find any chink in your armor, they're going to be, oh, there's a free one.
Yeah,
there's a free one.
And Men's so good. Like, I like Men a lot. I know he's not one of the premier blocking setters in the league, but man, he runs a great offense, and I love the spacing on the ball that he sets. Like, it's about 2 feet off, maybe 3, exactly where I always want it. And I know somewhere Matt Tiernan will complain and say that's not where it should be. And it's like, no, Matty, that's where it should be. It should be 2.5 off, 3 feet off. That's what you're going to do at the college level. That's what you should do here. And I mean that jokingly. Matt's done a real nice job of his ball placement at the club level now. Again, for high school, he's just banging balls left and right, but that's a different story. But that Classical team, that's not again, in my write-up, my big thing was, if they're on, it is going to be a war. Like, they're going to do a lot of cool stuff. The problem is consistency, because if they're off, they can bleed out pretty quick. They can drop 7 points, 8 points, which is an atrocious amount of points. And next thing you know, they're done. But Classical team's interesting.
To the point of James Munn's blocking, I will admit he is on the smaller side for the blocking aspect of it. I did see him earlier this year get a one-handed stuff block on Ryan Murphy during the NK game. So
I thought there was a rule about not bringing up Statue of Liberty blocks. I thought that was not something we're allowed to talk about, especially on a live stream. So
Murph will get over it.
Dr. JP brings up Classical as MSC, though, Mount St. Charles. Well, I mean, the hope is to avoid it. If you can, I think if you're Classical and if you're EG, you want to fight to get that 4-5 if you can. I don't think 4 is possible. So it really is going to come down to that EG Classical. Ben, take a double look at that. I mean, is it still possible to get the 5th seed? Because really, everyone should be avoiding Mount St. Charles. That team is rolling. I mean, they're throwing all sorts of wonderful matches out there and beating teams that are top tier.
So Classical lost to LaSalle on the 17th, right? Puts them at 7-8. Did they win? I'm assuming they won against South Kingstown on the 19th. I'm just going to assume that puts them at 8-8. They play NK this week, so if they're sitting at 8-8, I think they might need to win out to get to 4th.
Can EG lose and drop a spot?
That's a good question. Let's see. EG has NK and Coventry, so they'll most likely split that. They'll be at 10 and 7. Classical would need to win out to be at 9, so they won't have more wins than East Greenwich, I wouldn't think, if East Greenwich splits. Now, if East Greenwich manages to lose to Coventry, we're probably at a different story. But my prediction is that East Greenwich probably has that, 5 seed locked up.
Yeah, that 5 is what you want, because you want the 4-5. Because that's sort of, I mean, I have, if you look at the most recent ResV article, like I have in my rankings, I have, the hybrid at the top, right? They just went through NK, they just went through LaSalle. They've won 8 out of their last 9 or something like that. And they're probably the top team right now. But even through all that, they don't have enough, they have too many losses in the loss column to be the top seed. They're just going to run out of time. And at the end of the day, they're going to finish 3rd. So you don't want to be 6th.
Yeah.
You want to avoid being 6th if you can. So it's certainly one of those things that if Classical finds themselves in 6, and again, I think JP brings up a good point here, Doctor, that if it's a tie anyway, EG would win the tiebreaker because of the win-loss record in terms of the sets won in the head-to-head. So if Classical sits at 6, which it sounds like it is, you're going to have to deal with the hybrid right off the bat, and that's going to be a challenging match. It's going to be real challenging. And how do you beat the hybrid? Like, that becomes the new question. Certainly LaSalle and NK would love another crack at it. If you get a chance to watch that NK match, NK hit a lot of balls out of bounds. Like, I was really surprised at how many balls they hit out of bounds. So I don't think they'll miss the court that much this next time around if they see them. But LaSalle, they match up really great with LaSalle because they're really about the same blocking level, and they were able to frustrate Ephraim in the middle. So,
it'll definitely be a war. I don't completely count Classical out of that match against Mount St. Charles, but they'd have to put in a lot of work.
They'd have to cut down on errors big time.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not going to get points back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one of the things you're going to have to do is really focus on serving and stay away from the guys whose last name end in Uza. Like,
yeah, that's strategy right there.
Don't serve Ben, don't serve Connor, whoever the other guy is back. That's the guy that's got to get the ball. And I would try to serve, position 1, or anytime I can get the ball over the head of Caden Sullivan, make it real challenging for him. And then the other thing that I like to do as a coach is really serve to hold the middle, right? Like, get it right by the middle's head, take him off his route, and see if we can make the setter go to the pins where it's a little bit more manageable. Because, Thomas Matchett is in the Ephraim Jared Sampson class. Like, that dude can score, that dude can do work. And the second middle, and forgive me, I don't have his name in front of me. But the second middle is quite good as well. He does a lot of nice things too. So, with a pairing like that, which is comparative to the NK pairing, I think, NK with Matchett and Fahey, like those two, not Matchett and Fahey, Sampson and Fahey, like those dudes are good. Those are really good middles. I think MSC's right up there with them. So.
To the point of holding the middle against Mount St. Charles, I saw Classical try it once or twice when I had their match against Mount St. Charles, and Matchett, rather than being held and waiting to come all the way out to the front of the center, just took basically an abbreviated approach. Rather than coming across a 10-foot line to come straight at the center, he came in a diagonal, came right in front of Caden Sullivan, and then just banged one right to the tee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard to hold him. It's really hard to hold him. He's just so athletic.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I feel like a lot of middles in that position end up, like, when their approach line is off, then they don't realize that the court's in a different spot and they hit the ball out of bounds, but he's still scoring. That's pretty cool.
when I watched that, I went, "Oh my God, that's a big boy approach right there. That's not something I expected to see today."
Yeah, I got to see him play a couple of times now, and I was just like, "Yep, that's the middle I would like." I got to bring that kid in and talk to him because that kid's going to be really, really good. Yeah, one of the things, Jack, you sort of brought it up that, you know, my whole goal with our serving is to disrupt the middle. If you can shrug that off and come in on a shorter, abbreviated approach and still get big air and be able to bounce, there's not much you can do. There's not much you can do. You can try to make him play that first pass. You can try to make him uncomfortable that way. Like, all right, let's serve at him. Let's make him use his hands, and maybe that's going to cause an issue. But if you're serving by his head or serving behind him and he can't see and he still abbreviates and bangs, like, okay, well, we have to serve tougher than that somehow. Like, let's serve deep and see if we can go at least make them into high ball to eliminate. It's the other way to eliminate that middle attack. But yeah, that Mount St. Charles North Smithfield team, they have most of the pieces of the puzzle, as does NK. And I think for the most part, LaSalle does too. Now they've sort of massaged their lineup a little bit. Like they moved Connor Lewis, who was their right side, to the middle. Then they brought up
lefty, right?
Yeah, the big lefty's not playing middle, which is cool. I love lefty middles. They're always fun. They're always a challenge. But that's going to give them a bigger block. It's going to give them a bigger presence on that second line. They brought up a kid. What's his name? Let me take a look at him. Let's see here.
Is this the new right side?
Yeah, Jameer Evans. So Jameer Evans is now running the right, and he can score a little bit. I mean, I think he had 8 kills the last match they played.
I've seen him come in every now and then when I've been at some LaSalle matches. He's pretty bouncy.
Yep. And then they switched libs. They took Simus out of it and they put Taikata in there. So they've made some changes. But the funny thing is that, as I've written in the article, since the Rhodey tournament, they're 2-2, like which I don't think they expected to be. I love where Ali has come as a setter. He's actually improved quite a bit, and he had a monster match against Mount St. Charles. I mean, I think it was like 53 assists, 7 kills, 3 blocks. Like, that's a big boy match at the setter position. I didn't get a chance to watch the match, so I don't know where the placement was, and I don't know how his attackers connected with him. I did see that Ephraim had a ton of errors. Like, I think he had 15 kills, 11 errors, which is wild. It's a lot of misconnections or misplays on that situation. But I don't know. I mean, they're big, they're physical, and they have the top middle in the state. I still think Ephraim's the best out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like Jack Johnson on the left, and I like Nick Lisi on the left.
Yeah, I mean, I like the two of them, and obviously Ephraim's great in the middle, but they've got to pass the ball a little bit better, I think, just to open him up more, because there's definitely stretches of the game where he's a non-factor just because you can't get him the ball.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that for the first half of the year, Ali was setting him really low. Like that was sort of, I'm like, you have this guy who's touching 11 feet plus. Like, you gotta make him reach. You got to set him high.
But one ball isn't really a one ball when you're that tall.
Yeah, it's more of a 1.5, maybe even a 2, but the speed stays the same. It's just the height has to change. Because he just happens to be that level of athlete and that level of player. So you got to push him high, which I think also made it harder for the second middle to score, because he was at least thinking, I got to find a ball that works for both of them, and they're both just totally different.
Yeah, that's a tough job to do. I mean, the other middle was noticeably shorter.
And just didn't have that reach or that leap that Ephraim has. I mean, Ephraim has a top tier physicality to him. That the kid's going to play college ball somewhere. So where, we don't know, but he's going to be, if he wants to, he's going to be a factor in the college game. And Matchett's in that same feel. I felt Sampson worked himself. Jared out of North Kingstown, I thought he worked himself into that level. But he's going to go play club ball, or maybe not at all, at the University of Michigan. So, he's gonna not do the NCAA route, which is perfectly fine. He's going to have a blast at Michigan. So, but yeah, I think LaSalle is one of those teams that has all the pieces of the puzzle, but they make too many errors, and passing can be an adventure. And if passing is going to be an adventure, it takes you out of running your big horse in the middle. It takes you out of getting things comfortable for your pins, and it makes things challenging. But I mean, they've been a hard out for anybody, and the only team that sort of got them figured out is North Kingstown, and that's because they just out ball control.
I mean, I was at that LaSalle NK match, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it kind of looked like it from my angle. It looked like that they were cheating the blockers over to try and take care of Ryan Harrington and Cody Tao. Like Ephraim wasn't even in the middle. He was just kind of in like zone 6. Like he was just getting ready. And the outside hitter, either Jack Johnson or Nick Lisi, was just like, okay, you have the middle and the opposite. Like, probably not going there, but that's what you got. And Ryan Harrington and both Cody Tao were both still scoring with efficiency. I mean, you'd see this big block over from Ollie and Ephraim, and Harrington would find a hole in it or just go off of hands or something. Like it was impressive on both aspects, honestly. Like trying to find a way to figure him out and just being so quickly, like your strategy just didn't work almost immediately. NK hadn't seen it before, and all of a sudden it just no longer works.
Well, that might be one of the reasons why they wanted to go with a different libero, is that, you know, because Cody and Ryan are having such good years. Like Cody's having you know, an MVP type of year. Like he's been a horse for them at you know, for North Kingstown, been the 0-1, and has been able to really shoulder most of the offensive load. He's put some real nice numbers up. And Ryan, though, was hurt for a little bit. You know, he's a double machine. He's going to get you 10, 11 kills a night. He's going to get you 11, 12 digs a night as well. So, you know, maybe that was one of the reasons they were like, hey, let's see if we can give, you know, Ty Kata a chance. He's you know, a different type of player than Nathan Simas, and maybe, you know, he gets an extra dig or two because, you know, both Cody and Ryan are able to go up against that big block to say, all right, I see you, I'm going to go here instead, or I'm going to go here instead. And, you know, maybe we get an extra dig and we can counterattack. Jack, were you able to see stuff like that when you were playing left? Like, were you able to see the, you know, if you have this big block, I'm just going to go where there ain't? And
I think certainly when I was having my best games, yeah. Something I know that you and I worked on the first year, I think I was at Johnson Wales, I'd overrun the ball a whole lot. When you overrun the ball, you're looking up at it. You can't see the block so much. But yeah, anytime I could stay behind it, you can kind of see what's going on and just pick your spot and swing hard.
Yeah, I that's one of the things that is a big teach for almost everybody, is not overrunning it. Stay behind the ball, find it, bang, and use your vision to make decisions quickly. But yeah, I don't know. I like that LaSalle team. I mean, if you think about it, North Kingstown's going to be hard to beat. Like they still have a very complete team. The only thing that's very interesting with them is that, you know, Sampson playing 6 rotations. I mean, that's an adventure for me. I think Jared's doing a great job with it. Yeah,
but I've seen it work and I've seen it not work.
But when the lights get bright, man, that's when that move gets tough. It gets real tough.
I mean, you know, mentally, that's as a player who's never really done serious serve receiver defense, that's hard in a high pressure situation. And then also physically, I mean, a middle is probably working harder physically than anybody else on the court. So,
well, Jack, to your point, I feel like his offensive production's gone down a little bit. You know, like as somebody for the last, you know, this whole season that's been sort of grabbing the top numbers, you know, statistically for, you know, for big games that are happening. Like Quinlan has been putting up bigger numbers. Now, you know, stats or whatever. I mean, one of the things that I've been learning through this process as ResV is that people's interpretations of stats are all over the place. So some people think a kill is this, and some people don't think a kill is this, and some are inflated, some are underinflated. So again, I don't know, but your point is absolutely valid. He's taking on a very mentally tough situation, along with a position that requires him to be very physically tough. So again, kudos to him. I love that he's able to do it, and I love that he's done some real strong work with it. But semifinals and a dogfight, like that's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
A championship match against a really, really good team. Hope he can do it. I would love to see him do it. I mean, they do have Finn Kearney as their lib, and he's decent. I still think he's a year away from being the player that he's going to be. Like, he's still learning and still, in the process of becoming a very, very good player and a very good libero. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how long they ride that, and if they change it, or if that's what took them to the dance. That's how they're going to finish, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, like I said, I think Cody Tao is having a big time year. I think Ryan is Harrington is quite good, and for me at club he was a libero only, and here he's playing left and he's doing a lot of nice things. He definitely shores up their serve receive. Their serve receive is arguably the best in the state. I mean, I know, with the exception of Sampson, who can be a little iffy from time to time. You can't get much better than Tao and Harrington on serve receive. They serve tough.
It's a couple of guys I could see in 2-man serve receive.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah,
I'd buy that.
They serve tough, and then Quinlan Fahey has become a real. And I apologize, Quinlan, if I'm saying your last name wrong, but like, he's become a monster. He's become an absolute monster. Like, the dude scores, the dude blocks, and he, a little secret. NK runs at 31 on the first play of every match of every game. I've watched them play a bunch of times now. First serve, Tyler Yang, 31 to Quinn, bang, every time. So I don't know if that's giving away something, but it's true. But they can't stop him. He's well over top, and he's just he's become big middle.
He's a hype machine too.
Is he?
Yeah. Every play, he's screaming and yelling. Every time something good happens, it's fun to watch.
Part of the game, man. Part of the fun.
I think that happens with your own Cody a lot.
Yeah, and Ryan Murphy's the same way too. Ryan gets all fired up. Yeah,
NK the hype train.
Yeah. yeah. So he's turned into a real nice player, and it's good to have Ryan Murphy on the floor. Murph's got an arm on him, and when Murph is sort of a hit or miss guy. When he's on, he can be very tough. When he's off, it can be an adventure. But I mean, that gives them 3, 4, 5 arms that can score at will. So
all
I think
piloted by Tyler Yang.
Yeah, and Tyler Yang is the central hub of the wheel. Like, he just steady and strong. Not going to be the best blocker, but he's going to put a good ball up for everybody. And people, I mean, the dude's won a couple of championships already, and he's north of 1,000 assists. Like, he does a lot of things well. So, that NK team's still good money to win the whole thing, in my opinion. I mean, LaSalle's got their team, and then that Mount St. Charles. I mean, that's 3 big teams. And we haven't even talked about Charahoe yet. So Charahoe, we've hinted at it the whole broadcast, that Tiernan, what he's doing right now is pretty special, because of what he's played for his entire career, and now he's getting 20 plus kills a set, averaging 7 or 8 kills a set. I mean, it's really wild what he's doing, and he's hitting a high percentage. It's not like he's sitting at 150 taking 1,000 swings. He's probably in the 300, 400 range. So he's tough, but can Charahoe, and Jack, this team from last year a little bit. Do they have enough in the tank to make a run to the final?
I think a lot might ride on how hard students have to work over the course of the season. I mean, as a setter, certainly you're jumping as a setter, but the physical toll is not the same as the amount of hitting he's doing. So if his legs and his shoulder are all right, then I could see them pushing some people. But if he's gassed by the time the playoffs come around, they could be in some real trouble. But yeah, as you mentioned, the rest of the team, they've got some good guys coming into form. They've got a couple middles who are doing some work. I remember Travis from last year. last year was his first year, but I think he learned a lot. He's a good athlete. He's got some springs on him. Works hard. The other kid I didn't get a chance to work with because he wasn't with the team last year, but he also seems like he's doing some good stuff. Always up on time, calling for the ball, doing his best to take attention away from Tiernan.
Tiernan just jumped into the chat and said, "My shoulder is fine, everyone."
Shoulder, all right.
Maddie, you gave me a whole bunch of stuff about it, like, stop talking about my shoulder. I'm like, dude, it's a concern. Like, you don't be a setter and take 1,000 swings in your last year. Like, that's just a rare thing to happen. So it's worth talking about, but I'm glad his shoulder's fine.
Yeah. Good luck, Matt. Yeah, and then they got Mike Perry on the right, who, I mean, he's a solid player, and then every once in a while too, he'll just give you a game that's lights out. He'll give you 5 aces in a row and a bunch of kills, and you kind of wonder where that came from. He's certainly not bad, but every once in a while he'll just kind of take over a set. So that could also take some load off of Tiernan.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that they're trying to work on a little bit is, Cody Poplowski's a sophomore setter, if I'm accurate there. And he's done a nice job. Like, he's come a long way from when I saw him at the beginning. But you do got to get Perry involved. Like, I think that was one of the things that's sort of starting to become a mild issue for them, right? Like, we're getting Tiernan the ball 30 times, 40 times, 50 times, but you need to have something, it goes back to the idea of East Greenwich, where, you can't be a puzzle that's too easy to figure out. So the puzzle of, we're going to go to Tiernan now 50 times, you still got to make them defend the whole net. You still got to use Perry. And then, like you said, I've seen Perry put in a really good game from there, from time to time. So you want to get him going. I like Travis in the middle. I like Ben Christensen's his name, I believe. I think he does a nice job too. They do have a piece of the puzzle, and I love Azanaro. James, I didn't really know much about him until he introduced himself to me, midway of the season last year. He was like, "Hey, coach, I'm James." I'm like, "Hey, I don't know who you are, but that's great." But then, you were sort of hyping him up a little bit as the coach last year, and then I got to watch him some more. And this year, I think he's done a real nice job. It was sort of slow out of the gate because there were some issues that they needed to work through. But now he's putting up, regularly 21, 22, 23 digs every match. And I think he shores them up as well. So I think that Charahoe team's dangerous. Like, I think they can do a lot of stuff. And certainly if Tiernan goes off for, I think his high is, I think he eclipsed 40, right? Or maybe 38 against
close if it wasn't over 40.
Yeah. I mean, if he goes for 30 plus and you get 10 out of Perry and you get, 5 or 6 out of the middles, and Brandon Knowles gives you 5 or 6, like, that should get it done. That should be enough.
Yeah.
So, that's what they're looking to try to accomplish. And they're going to be the 4-5, right? So they're going to see East Greenwich first.
Yep.
And then from there, who's the 4-5 seed? I always screw this up. The 4-5 goes and sees the 1, or they go see the 2?
Yeah, they'll go and see the 1.
They go see the 1.
Got an 18 bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah, 18 bracket, 4-5 sees the 1. So East Greenwich and Charahoe are playing to go to NK.
The Forge, where champions are built. Oh boy. And that means the 3-6 would be
3-6 is Mountain Classical.
And then they get to
winner of that goes to probably LaSalle.
LaSalle, the mountaintop.
Maybe East.
What?
Maybe East.
Yeah, maybe. East might travel to Classical or Mount. That's within the realm of possibility.
Would love to see that happen.
Strange. That's why they play the games, man. Weird stuff happens all the time. All the time.
To the point of that 4-5 game between Charahoe and East Greenwich, though, I mean, if all things stay the same, nothing that we talked about happens. We have 2 teams that everyone knows where the ball's going. It's going to the left.
That's right.
So, who's better at doing that? Who's better at setting the outside there?
Who's better at being obvious? All right, here's what we're gonna do, guys. And that match takes place at Charahoe, down at the cave.
At Charahoe.
Yeah. Cave. Bad things happen at the cave.
Love the cave.
Oh my gosh. Fun stuff. So, all right, who's the long odds? Well, Jack's got Cranston East.
I think Charles Pincince is going to score 30 a match, take him
Woo!
to the finals.
Ooh.
No,
Hey, man.
not quite that far. Not quite.
28. So we'll be reasonable.
Yeah, come on.
So who do you got, Jack? Who's your is you gonna stay with CE as your long odds?
I think if they get Jethro back, they could be a good dark horse candidate because that's I mean, the kid's good. Hopefully he's been getting some ball touches. If not, maybe he's not jumping and hitting, but I feel like that's an easier skill to get back quickly than ball control and serve receive. So if he's involved in that, hopefully he's at least touching the ball. If he's not involved, things could be tough. And then I think my dark horse would have to be Charo.
Yeah. Well, if you're the opposition and you see Vargas on the side, like you're serving him the entire time. Like,
Yeah,
you're not even thinking twice. You're going, all right, Jethro, you've set out a season and a half in your career. Let's see you pass a ball now. And wouldn't it be awesome if a dude passes, just threes over and over again
Oh, it would be sweet.
and starts bouncing balls like he's been playing the entire year. He's been waiting for this moment. He's been fresh the entire time. But yeah, I mean, that's what I would do if that kid was welcome back here. We're going to make you work really, really hard.
Yeah. You want to play volleyball? We get to play volleyball.
And then the other thing too is I would set wherever that kid is. Let's see how he jumps. Let's see how he feels. But that's
Stress
like
test.
that's obvious. Big Ben.
Dark horse for me, probably Classical. I mean,
Ooh.
I feel like if they go on a hot streak, if they're feeling good, they're going to be confusing to a lot of teams. I mean, there are a lot of young middles in Division One that are going to have to try and figure out where to block. And I can't figure out where to block when I watch those games. So I don't know how they're going to be able to do it when they're playing. Like if Classical is on, they might cause a lot of problems.
I could see that. I mean, Classical is hit or miss, but when they're on, man, is it tough to figure out, and man, is it tough to beat them. Like they really do a nice job of hanging and banging with you. I think it helps a ton that their setter is high level, and it helps a ton that all their pieces are remotely the same, and they all have arms, right?
Yeah,
like I mean, their biggest.
You could put any one of them at any position at the front row, and they'll just do what that position is supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't have specific hitters; they just have hitters. Yeah. That's all they do.
And their biggest issue is ball control. But man, I mean, when they're on, man, they're tough. So I think that's a good long odds guy. Oh, who do I have for long odds? Jeez, I mean, I don't know. I think I really believe it's a 3-team race between LaSalle, North Kingstown, and the hybrid. I really like the hybrid a lot. I think, I've gotten to see them play a bunch of times, and, they have the pieces of the puzzle that I'd be comfortable with going forward, but I'd be comfortable with NK as well. I'd be comfortable with LaSalle. Charahoe, has the top pin in the state. So, if Tierney can go off, that can cause issues. Ben, I thought you made a great case for Classical. Like, I think that, they can cause some issues. East Greenwich, I mean, there feels to me like there's a piece missing, and I don't know what that piece is. I really like moving Aiden to the right side. I like Guessman in the middle. I think Coach Ridge has done all the things that he can do. The only thing he's got to really work on is getting some sort of a right side attack. Like, just make them guard the whole net, make them block the whole net. Don't just sit on that. I don't feel the love of Cranston East. I mean, I like all the guys; they're good people, and I like Coach Jamal, and certainly I like Charles and all those guys. I mean,
that being said, a lot of guys on East are very young. Like next year might be a revenge tour. That'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I like Jackson Rennick. I like that crew, but they are. I think you nailed it, Ben. They are a little bit young. I mean, that's sort of how I felt about the Vargas injury. It kind of thrust these younger guys into the limelight before they were ready. Like, I didn't think that Charlie Pincince was ready to be the man, but he's actually taken it and done a nice job with it. He's really had to go. Hey, there's no growing into this. You're now the guy on day one.
I saw him go to town on the Ridgefield, Connecticut school. Like
Yeah,
going off blocks all day. If the block wasn't there, he's fine on the floor. He's very effective.
No, he's good, and I think I'd love to talk to him about it at some point, but I haven't yet. How he felt. Would he have preferred for Vargas to? I think obviously he preferred Vargas to be healthy and for them to play, but might have been a different sort of feel for him where they didn't rely on him from day one, and Vargas was the senior and the guy who was getting 30 swings a night, and then Charlie came along after that, and sort of what's happened with Dobrzansky. Like, I think that was the way it was supposed to sort of work out for Charlie, but instead Vargas gets hurt and it's like, here, kid, we're gonna set you a bunch, go into some games. And he's like, okay. All right, I'll give it my best. And that's what he did. And he's come a long way. I think he looks pretty good, but I just don't think that team's ready. I don't, and certainly Hendricken's not ready if they get in. I guess my long odds. Yeah, I'm going to probably go with Charaho, mainly because, Tiernan's doing something special. They do have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle. I think especially the first match at the Cave, like that's going to be a nice, it's tough to play in the Cave. So EG's going to have their hands full, and certainly, you get that win, you feel pretty good. Then you go to, either the mountaintop. Where are they going again? Was it 3-6? They're going to the mountaintop for LaSalle.
4-5 goes to NK.
Yeah. Oh, they're the 4-5.
Yeah.
See, I always screw it up, Ben.
Yeah.
So they're going to go to.
No, yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yeah. So winner of Charaho East. If playoffs start today, that is an important note. Playoffs start today. Charaho plays East Greenwich. Winner of that game goes to NK.
And NK's the one team that's held him down, right? Like NK held him to 12. Like that was his low. So
pretty good low.
Yeah, and I think that Maddie and crew would love another attempt at him. And they lost in 4 most recently, like a week or so ago, and Tiernan at 21. So third time's the charm, maybe in the playoffs. Who knows?
Hard to beat the same team 3 times in a row.
It really is. It really is. So who do you have in the final for D1?
I'm gonna go NK and Mount. At this past week or so, Mount has really kind of proved that they seem to have everyone's number, or they're just super angry that they weren't able to produce early in the season because people were injured. So I don't see a whole lot stopping them. Like I think there's a very legitimate argument for Mount winning it this year, which would be an insane back-to-back season to win D2 and then the following year win D1.
Good point. Big Jack?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ben. It sounds a little crazy to have Mount St. Charles win D2 and then move up and do the same thing, but I think it'll be a Mount NK final. I think, I think they have a better combination of ball control and balance than any other teams in the league. There's some teams with better firepower, maybe. Some teams that can really swing at the ball, but just make too many errors. And then I think the other team, like LaSalle's got real good firepower, but I just don't know if they can. I don't know if they can defend well enough. I don't know if they can pass well enough to take it to those 2 teams. And then in the final, I really have no idea. I'm gonna go Mount just because I think that'd be fun.
Fun to have the hybrid win back to back in weird ways, D2 and D1.
Yeah,
it's kind of a fun situation.
I don't think they've got a real any one kid who you can point at and that's a weak spot and that could be their downfall. I think they're solid all around. Hard to find a hole.
Yeah, I mean they have that other kid too, Azaria. Is that his name? Number 10 for them.
Oh, they're right side, but he's solid.
He's got a good arm on him too. He does a real nice job.
He can step into serve receive if he needs to. I've seen him hit on both sides. Mount's going to be tough to beat. They're just going to be tough to beat.
Yep, they truly are. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing with LaSalle is I feel like LaSalle is it's like the old Riv teams. Like the very old Riv teams when I got into the game in 2009 and 2010, they were built to just intimidate and beat you up fast. And it worked 90% of the time. Like they'd come in, they'd be bouncing balls, and then they'd steamroll you. And before you even knew it, you're like, what just happened? We lost in 3 or 4. But if you could withstand the storm and you could, push back, they had trouble with that. And that's ultimately how they would lose in, the NCAA tournament, right? They would get to the NCAA tournament or the Moltons or whatever they called it back then. And they would find somebody that would push back enough. And then they would just sort of collapse. That sort of has that feel for LaSalle. Like they come in, they have all the weapons, they're big, they're physical, they're a nightmare offensively if they're on. Like they're just going to bounce balls. But if you can survive it and not worry about it, and you know the right places to attack and you know the right places to work, and you keep your head, you can make them fall because they'll get frustrated that they're not just winning. That's an oversimplification. There's a lot more that goes on with all those teams, but that's sort of what that feels like. So yeah, NK and Mount St. Charles have a more calmer demeanor about them. Like they're more ride the wave, more, hey, we're going to play ball control. We're going to make good decisions. We're going to make you make an error as opposed to commit one ourselves. Charahoe is sort of in that same vibe, but not as even keeled. I think there's a little bit of a little worry that goes with Charahoe from time to time. I think their hope is always that they avoid it, but sometimes it creeps in, and that's how they lose some of those matches. And they just don't have enough to score enough points. Like I think that's they're relying on Maddie to do so much that it's just not enough from the other areas. Because the block's going to get Maddie once or twice, and that's all it's going to need each set, just once or twice. And then you miss a couple serves and the match is over. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun one in the D1 world. I can't wait to see how it goes, but I'm going to agree with both of you guys as well. I like NK Mount in the final. I'm going to go NK in 5. And the reason I'm going NK in 5 is I just think, they've created this feeling. They've created a breakthrough type feeling for their program that's the expectation, right? Like Jack, I don't know if we ever talked about it at Johnson and Wales. Ben, we might have as well. I don't know, but like that was always my goal at JWIL, was to break through. And you win one, and then you win another one, and then it just becomes part of what's supposed to happen. And you're always playing for that moment. And when you feel that way, like that's sort of what the program's all about, you actually perform better under pressure and in the championship match, because that's what's supposed to happen. That's why winning and breaking through is really hard. Like the first one's massively difficult. Like it's hard to break through. The second one's even harder, but the third and fourth and fifth one tends to be a little bit easier because that's the expectation. Everyone's expecting to be there, and you play better when the lights are brightest. So I think Mount St. Charles, they won the D2 one. They beat a game Westerly side, but that was a 5-set thriller. And now, they've put all the pieces together and they're fearsome, but I don't know if they have that swagger that NK does. So I just think it's going to be a war, and I think it could go either way. But in the end, I think NK comes out on top, which is scary because, they have they have one senior in the middle, a junior, 2 sophomores, a senior setter. I mean, they're going to need to replace Tyler at some point next year. Side. And their senior right side, but they're still pretty young, and their JV team just won the JV state championship again. So they're in. It's a factory now, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do good stuff over there.
Why they call it the Forge, or I call it the Forge. All right. Well, we've gone over everything I think we can go over. Are there any questions out of the chat? I don't see much. I mean, it was great to see Matty Tiernan jump in and tell us his arm's all right. That's great.
Now, how about his legs?
Can you still jump, Matt? That's the question. Can you still jump? Yeah. That was a great time for any questions. If anyone has any, give you a couple seconds to figure it out. But from there, I hope this has been a fun experience. I hope people have enjoyed the first ResV Live at 5. Big Jack, would you come back? Is the question, Jack. Would you come back?
Would I come back?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure thing. I love talking volleyball.
Notice how he didn't ask me because I don't have a choice.
Yeah, Ben, you're just part of the show. I mean,
I'm just the mascot.
You're the first real
I
employee.
just waddle along behind you in a big furry suit.
You would make a great mascot, Ben.
Dude, back in the day at Johnson and Wales, we used to, all the men's volleyball players used to be the mascot for JWO. Like that, we were the go-to people. So, anytime they needed a mascot at a match, one of my guys would put on the suit and run around. Blast.
Can we get Ben Lind's face on like the center of the new South County shirts? Would that work out?
So Maddie jumps in and says the ResV All-Star Game draft should be live streamed. It says North versus South is boring. Well, I mean, I get that. And I don't know. The problem is that there's so many ins and outs to making the ResV All-Star Game work. It is really a more of an undertaking than people realize. So, I try to set the teams up to be as even as possible, and I try to massage it so that both sides are as competitive. And, but the problem with live streaming it, Maddie, is that it's another thing that I have to sort of monitor and figure out. It's just as it is, I have to make uniforms. I have to, and we're doing the girls one this year as well. So, on June 17th, ResV All-Star Games are going to take place at East Greenwich High School. The girls side will start at 10 a.m. and then the boys side will start at 2 p.m. I'll be sending out the invites to the boys this week. So, probably starting Monday, I'll get that link out to all the top 26, 27 that are on the board. The girls have already sort of signed up. We have, out of the 26, I think we have 22 that are going to attend, and it's going to be a nice match. Still got to make those shirts and jerseys for everybody. Still got to set everything up. Ben, we got to figure out a way to live stream it. Maybe this is another way we can make it go. This is a nice little test for that. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to considerations for who should be where, but the other aspect too is that coaches aren't supposed to be coaching their own players. Like, that's part of the gig. So, if you have a live draft and, you have a chair, let's just say, for example, that, we won't say Cherry Hill, we'll say North Kingstown. Let's say, there's a North Kingstown player on each team, and then, Hesford's been asked to coach one of the teams. Now he's coaching one of his players, and we don't want that. The idea is for it to be switched. You're coaching the other team's players. The format is still going to be, we're going to play 6 sets, 4 sets to 25, 2 sets to 15, and then Ben Lind is going to pull 3 sets out of a hat and decide which sets count, which is, last year, Ben, the roller didn't really do well. I think this year we're just going to have a hat. We're going to pick numbers and have you just, pick the winners for us. We are going to have it live streamed on YouTube and probably going to put it on Facebook as well. I'm going to lay that at the feet of Ben Lind. He's going to figure that one out for me. And then, Big Jack, I don't know what you're doing, but we got to figure something out for you to do. Maybe you run the table and make sure that everything goes where it's supposed to go. And Ben, you're going to officiate along with Steve Simmons, I think.
I think that's the plan. Simmons and I have a few plans for this particular match. Hopefully get some laughs out of you or the crowd or both. And I'll let you wait to see those.
Maybe I'll play a celebrity set for one team.
No. No. What we need you to do is we need you to go talk to Jeff Outrin and see if we can get a sponsorship from Boston Bounce. Like, we need to get Boston involved. That'd be kind of cool. This year, we've been really blessed with a lot of sponsors for the match. Really excited. So we're going to put everyone's logo on the jerseys this year. So you'll see all the sponsors that we have. Maddie Roach will be back to run the PA. Alan Segui will be our trainer at the thing. I mean, it's really going to be a nice day of volleyball. really looking forward to it. I mean, it's really the culmination. It's, I had somebody reach out to me, and whoever it is, first off, I want to beg for your forgiveness because your email fell through the cracks for me and I haven't responded yet, and shame on me. But someone reached out to me via ResV and was like, "Hey, are you doing any camps or clinics this year?" And the answer is no, I'm not, because all my efforts go towards the ResV All-Star match. Like that's the big thing for me. It's the big culmination of my efforts this year. Certainly as I'm continuing to build the company and build what I'm going to actually do, which I think it's going to be more of a membership content based thing that is the format of so many different people out there. But it seems to be the best way for me to communicate, help people, and also provide content, and we'll have a paywall and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, my big event is the ResV Systems All-Star Game. And also, in case those don't know, it is for charity as well. We do a portion of the proceeds go to the Tomorrow Fund, which is my favorite charity. And the Tomorrow Fund is a charity that helps families when their children develop cancer, and how do you deal with that situation. And, one of the things that ends up happening is if you find yourself in that situation, sadly, where your child has cancer, like you move mountains to try to help them and save them. And when you're doing that, there's things that sort of go by the wayside, like buying groceries, like buying food, clothing, supplies. Like you just don't think about it. You put all your money in the center of the table and say, save my child. So the Tomorrow Fund comes in and helps with those situations. They'll buy groceries for families that are dealing with that situation. They'll buy clothes. They'll buy laundry detergent. They'll basically take care of them. And you know what? Even if your child has cancer, the city doesn't care. They'll still charge you for parking. So like Tomorrow will take care of that as well. It really is. I know Ben and Jack, you guys aren't parents yet, but I'm a parent of 3. And certainly a lot of the people, are parents out there that follow ResV, and, the idea of your child coming down with something like that, you'll do anything you can to save them. And so for the Tomorrow Fund to be able to step in and help those people, I think it's the most, worthwhile charity out there. And I've gotten a chance to visit the Tomorrow Fund. I've toured their facility. I've met the people. Those people are God's people. They're doing God's work over there. So that's where the charity aspect of the Tomorrow Fund comes in. So that's the event, and I love what happened last year. I think that was probably the best volleyball match of the season last year, was the ResV All-Star Game, which it actually, in terms of the level, I mean, certainly the seriousness of a championship match or a semifinal match can rival that, but in terms of the level of volleyball, I thought it was better than anything that we saw. And then lastly, the other thing too is that I'm inviting all the college coaches in the region to come to the match. So, I think Craig Kolek's going to be there. I know he's helped sponsor with his CCK mental performance. Like I know that there's a great shot that Evan Gilio will be there. Certainly going to invite all the women's college coaches in the region as well to come down for the women's game. And then it becomes even another aspect, another level where it's almost like a showcase as well. So a lot of good things for the ResV Systems All-Star Game. Looking forward to it. Put it on your calendar. Make sure you show. I think it's $5 for a ticket. And then, children under 7 or 5 or whatever are in free. But it's a lot of fun. And Ben, you enjoyed it. You enjoyed reffing. And
absolutely.
And when you pick numbers, you're going to do your best Vanna White, right? You're going to look great.
I'll have the dress waiting in the wings. No one will even see me do the change.
You got to be like those magicians that change clothes in an instant. They bring up the thing and drop it in their different outfit. But yeah, we got to find something for you to do, Jack. I don't know. Maybe you can run the table and be like, listen, give us money or else.
I can do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, last year Gio ran the table, and I'm hoping to get Gio Zabata there to broadcast. I think that'd be kind of cool. Like, I think having Gio broadcast the event for live for YouTube and Facebook might be the coolest thing ever. I don't know what. What?
Then you would definitely need a delay and somebody like monitoring the feed.
Well, that was the thing. I don't know what he's going to say. But when you have to toggle that switch, is it for children? It'll be no. And but it'd be nice to see Gio back in the gym. You know, he was a part of the South County crew for a little bit, and he was also a part of our Johnson and Wales men's volleyball family. So it'd be nice to see him back. But yeah. Any more questions over there on the chat? I don't see anybody. Ben, Jack, thank you so much, man. I mean, I don't know how to end this thing either. Again, it's my first one. But thank you so much for your time. We've been on for almost 2 hours, I guess, and talked a lot of volleyball. Got to go over the playoff races in all three divisions. Got to highlight some players and some styles of play and some things for teams to work on. Even I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I think week 18 is going to go fast. I will say this, that, you know, I won't be there for the playoffs, which is wild to me. You know, I've been the broadcaster for the NFHS championships for the last 2 years, and I won't be able to make it this time. I'm going to be in the state of Washington, of all places, with my wife. So I won't be calling that game, but I'll be watching via NFHS and without the sound on, because no one's going to be as good a broadcaster as me, of course. But but yeah, I won't be there. But then I come back on the Tuesday, and then it's, you know, all things ahead for the ResV All-Star game on this that Saturday. East Greenwich, 10 a.m. for the girls, 2 p.m. for the boys. Maybe we'll probably do sort of a stamp. If you do the one, you don't have to do the other. You don't have to pay for the other unless you want to, and there'll also be a donation jar as well. So. All right. Any other questions, thoughts before I end the first ever ResV live broadcast?
Go Thunderbolts.
Go.
Get him a lion shirt.
The visor is the Savannah Bananas. Big fan of the Savannah Bananas. I don't know if you guys have caught them yet. Baseball team that does crazy, crazy things. Might save the game. Became a fan right away. So go Bananas.
Go Bananas.
Go Bananas. All right, Jack, thank you so much for your time. Ben, thank you so much for your time. Stay well, guys. I'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody who stayed and watched some of us. Really appreciate it. Hope you learned a lot. Hope you enjoyed the thing, the conversation, the information. Check out resvsystems.com, where I do all the write-ups, and certainly be on the lookout for when there's an opportunity to become a member of ResV, and certainly I'll spell that out, what that looks like, but would love to meet and help as many players, coaches, and parents and fans and referees as possible. I've got to prove that my 20s and 30s weren't wasted on volleyball. All right. Stay well, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
Stay well, everyone.